Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel Philosmos, where everything philosophical is discussed. Now today I'll be talking about integrating your shadow, and this is an interesting topic, guys, because the normal inclination, right, the propensity of our culture, the human society, is to have a grotesque response to anything that is seen inadmissible, sorry, within somebody's behavior or within their individual behaviors. So that is solely based on the fact that we still dwell within polarity consciousness, and I spoke about polarity consciousness in one of my videos. It's basically a consciousness that is fragmented, right? So why we have a shadow is a manifestation, it's a consequence of our polarity consciousness. And so within the shadow, the dark elements, right, the portions of yourself that you're not aware of, or portions of yourself that you reject, that you refuse to accept, or that you do not presently know how to utilize, right? And then there are aspects of yourself that are known, aspects of yourself that you like, right? We tend to pay attention to our qualities, the qualities that we like more, so that we can feel more comfortable with ourselves. When we dwell within qualities that we don't like, we tend to be more insecure. Okay, so the normal reaction within every human being, once they experience their shadow, once they experience any form of negativity, once they experience any level of suffering, any level of pain, because I see the shadow self as the yang principle, the feminine, the darker elements, the hidden aspects, resembles the unconscious mind, resembles the subconscious mind too. Just that aspect of existence that is not presented to your ordinary eyes, so there's aspects of ourselves that are known and aspects of ourselves that are not known, or we place it in the domain of being unknown because we refuse to acknowledge them, right? And once we play with that duality, once we play with that polarity, then what tends to happen, it's a mechanism inbuilt within the shadow self. So everything in nature, everything in existence within the human experience needs to be integrated. So the shadow wants to be seen, right? It wants to be seen, it wants to be known. So what it's going to do, it manipulates you, and I'm speaking of it as if it has a life of its own. In a way, it kind of does, because it's like a portion of yourself. But what tends to happen is that the shadow, negativity, or things that you harbor within yourself that you don't allow to be seen, or you allow yourself to accept, then it tends to manipulate you from your unconscious mind. It tends to manipulate you within the blind spots of your consciousness, because you have not shined the light of consciousness. Okay, and once you don't shine the light of consciousness on it, then it tends to behave as a self-destructive element of your nature. When you want to do something, then the opposing energy comes in that brings in a feeling of laziness or a feeling of anxiety to prevent you from acting in that way, or in that specific situation that you wanted to act in, because there's an aspect within that intention, or there's an aspect within yourself fundamentally that you're not integrating. So let me give you an example of a person, two types of people. One person who's integrating the shadow, and one person who's not. All right, so the normal general individual, when they experience anxiety, let's just say in speaking up in a specific situation, right, then that anxiety will consume them and eventually uh, like lead them to be silent, or just not address the situation at hand, to run away or to escape or to avoid it, so that the anxiety doesn't have the opportunity to grow, you know. So whatever it is that's giving us anxiety, we want to run away from it, so that this feeling that we feel does not amplify and grow to such an extent that I will not be able to handle it, right? So there's that avoidance. And then there's another individual that experiences that same anxiety in the moments where they need to speak out. And then they use that anxiety to enable them to speak. So this is something that like I've experienced recently. Like I think it's the whole situation that's happening with Roxy as well. Like what tends to happen now, it's something that is backed by like some kind of mental alchemy that I'm doing but I'm not doing simultaneously. Anytime I experience some negativity or some level of pain or some kind of suffering, I'm able now to create a space, right, between me and that thing, right? Not in the sense that we're separate, but I'm trying to play the game of seeing the emotion without myself, without my sense of self or who I think I am, to be imbued in whatever I'm viewing, to view it objectively and to view it purely as if I am not there, just as a witness. Do you understand? So not coming in with pre-existing beliefs or whatever, just purely observing it. And when I come from that angle of purely observing negativity, or purely observing my shadow, or purely observing any kind of suffering or any kind of pain, what tends to happen is that it acts like a momentum, it acts like a propeller, and it shoots me into higher states and higher vibrations. And I believe that's the real purpose of our shadows, the real purpose of negativity, the real purpose of suffering, is to propel existence, is to propel the human species, because I don't think animals dwell within polarity consciousness. It's something that is quite evident within the human species, but yeah, that's another conversation for another day. But within the human context, right, we're polarized, okay? And how we tend to deal with negativity, as I said, is through avoidance. But now when we use the negativity, it can behave as like a propeller. It can push you into higher vibrations and to higher states of consciousness, to which you view things with more depth, you view things more intricately, and you have deeper wisdom. Because without that negative aspect, without the shadow, without the yang, the feminine principle, I'm not too sure if it's the yin or the yang, sorry guys, but the darker element of existence, the unconscious, once we use that, then it acts as a momentum to higher states of consciousness. So anytime I observe qualities within myself that I do not at present like, I can use that as a momentum to propel me to a higher state of consciousness in which I've transcended that state in which I deemed as bad or inadmissible within myself. So let's just say like the quality of laziness or anger, whatever the case may be. So experience that emotion, purely observe it, be a witness, stay as your consciousness, not as your consciousness of being a person, but being a consciousness that is pure, not attached to any beliefs or not attached to any kind of philosophies, just purely observing that feeling. And then once you felt that feeling, use it to propel you to act that in such a way that will get you to vibrate at a higher state. Because pain is, it can be the greatest motivator or your greatest enemy, you know. And once we become aware of these qualities within ourselves, you know, that self-destructive element that we all have that self-destructive element within our being. But it only becomes self-destructive when you don't integrate it. When you integrate it, it amplifies your character, it amplifies your consciousness, and it amplifies your understanding of who you are. You begin to know thyself at a deeper level. You begin to know who you are through that aspect to which you are hiding, or that you're trying to avoid, or that you just didn't know from plain ignorance. So the whole ordeal here is to know thyself. That is the axiom that should drive you within your existence, to know yourself. And whatever qualities that appear to be grotesque, realize that you're seeing through the eyes of your culture. You're not seeing through the eyes of nature, which doesn't have any concept of morality. It has no concept of good and evil. It is just pure, raw existence that has both good and the bad. And nature is intelligent enough, right? God, universe, whatever you want to call that energy, it's intelligent enough to add the quality of pain, to add the quality of the unconscious, to add the quality of the shadow, to add the quality of pain and suffering, so that existence can propel to new levels at every given moment. There's nothing that propels an individual like pain. If everything is going good, right, then it doesn't necessarily propel you to want to get more good and good. It will basically bring a sense of ease. So ease goes against the natural inclination of nature to ascend to higher levels at every given moment. That's the nature of our existence as well as human beings, is to ascend to higher levels of consciousness at every given moment. And ease does not permit us to do that. It's only those aspects of life or of ourselves that we do not necessarily like, that bring that offer a platform to which we can become more of ourselves, that we can become higher expressions and higher versions of who we know ourselves to be. But we cannot do that if we keep ourselves contained in a consciousness, a polarized consciousness that sees things as working against us. There is nothing within your personality, there is nothing in life that is there in vain. Everything serves a purpose. So if you integrate that, you'll realize just how this situation, just how this quality within yourself or quality within life has assisted you to propel to a higher state of consciousness. And you can only do that once you learn to integrate, once you learn to work with what you have, instead of trying to remove it, to try and get rid of it, and to try and fix it. But try and work with it, and you'll realize that there are hidden gems in what you deem as negative. So thank you very much, guys. Please like this video if you liked it. Please share if you found it valuable. Please comment if you'd like to add some of your views. And to end it off, as I always end it off, for those who seek no more, for in the present we find it all. Thank you very much, guys.